both of y'all. This is from a listener. Do you think Democrats will truly push for another woman presidential candidate, given the losses of Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, or will they quote unquote play it safe the next time around?
I think the question is, who are you going to push for? A part of what happens and a part of why I try to, and the Congresswoman just did a great job of talking through and educating folks on the budget process. It's important, and I've been trying to do it as I go across the country, to educate people on what the DNC does and does not do. The 10 people, 8 people, and then a couple of others who are appointed, we don't pick the nominee. We don't pick the nominee. And a part of why that's so important for me to say that and to repeat it is that if you think that Malcolm, Kenyatta, and a couple other people are going to get together in a room and pick the nominee, then what you have just done is give away your power to me. I don't want your power. You hold on to your power. You will decide who the nominee of this party is. And so if you want a woman to be the nominee of this party, I'll tell you, you better be encouraging such a leader to step up and run. And when they run and they ask you to grab a clipboard and knock on doors for them to get them on the ballot, when they ask you to send them a couple of bucks, do that. There are so many folks who want to mystify the process so that they can control it and control you. And I get it. Because of how complicated things are and because of how complicated government is, it is easier to get into the they mentality. They gonna decide. And you hear it all the time. What they gonna do, what they gonna do. No, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Who do you want the nominee of this party to be? Our job at the DNC and what we've been laser focused on is making sure that whoever the nominee is, that there is infrastructure that they can plug into. When I talk about infrastructure, what do I mean? What I mean is that the DNC, for the first time in history, is sending $1 million a month out of DC, out to our state parties, and to DC that should be a state party, but also into our DC party, so that they can do a number of things. A, build up a year-round organizing program so that the first time you hear from Democrats, it's not from our eventual nominee, but it's from a Democrat knocking on your door asking, what do you need? How can I help? What do we need to know to make us better and stronger as a party? When I talk about infrastructure, it's our ability to build up our capacity to communicate on all the different platforms, not just through legacy media, because I will tell you, one of the challenges that I see constantly is that people equate what they hear on legacy media as what is happening. Those two things are not the same. And let's be very clear, whether it's CNN or MSNBC or whatever, all these networks are owned by the same billionaires that were sitting behind Donald Trump at the worst birthday party Dr. King has ever had, patting him on the back. Those are the same people that own these media companies. Do you expect those same companies to tell you what's going on in a way that really informs you? Or do you expect those same companies to inform you in a way that generates the most clicks and the most interest
but yet,
and the
Malcolm,
most engagement?
I'm sorry, but yet so many Democratic leaders will only go to those legacy media outlets.
Well, you know what? When I ran to be vice chair of the Democratic Party, I didn't run because I thought everything was going great. I ran because I thought we had the capacity to change some things, and because I thought that we should bring some, common sense, North Philly, call it like we see it, sort of attitude to the DNC, and that's why I'm here, and it's a part of what we need to do in this moment, and it's what so many incredible leaders across our party, and I get to luckily get to sit next to one, are doing, going everywhere, talking to everybody, coming on your incredible shows, going on the legacy media, but but also talking to people who have a couple thousand followers. And that, frankly, is what Republicans did so well in this last election, is not just look at how do we spend on the traditional media, but they engage with folks who might have just 1,000 or 2,000 followers, but who within their sphere of influence have a lot of people who they know and trust. All of you know it. There are people in your neighborhoods, in your community, who you know and trust. When you come to Philly, there's no way that you can engage with online social media and not know about No Gun Zone, right? Like, if you want to talk to young black folks in Philly, you need to be on No Gun Zone. And they were doing an incredible job of pushing out lies, let's be very clear, a lot of the time, pushing out nonsense like some of the things, Reese, that you spoke to. Be very clear. Donald Trump is not going to end taxes on your tips. He ain't giving you $5,000, just so you understand. He's not doing it. And he didn't want to give you the money that you got last time. That was House Democrats that pushed for you to get that. He just put his name on it the way he always does, shows up after it's done and slaps his name on it, by the way. But what we have to have are more messengers, like my good friend, who can go out to all of those different platforms and engage. This is a yes and approach, and that's the type of Democratic Party that I think we're trying to build.
He was real good, y'all. Y'all give it up for Malcolm. I mean, I'm not DNC, so my answer ain't gonna be the same. Because I know where they were trying to go with it, right? It is this fear that the people within the party, within the primary system, will have about voting for a woman, because every time we voted for a woman, we've lost so far. And I think that that's a natural fear, because we just want to win. So there's a lot of people that are like, you know what? Like, let's go find the safest white boy we can find. I mean, I'm just saying.
Those are the callers that we're hearing. We're hearing people.
No, for real.
A white man's got to do it. We're getting those callers.
For real. And to be clear, when we talk about them, I can tell you that there is one specific candidate. I had a donor on the phones with me telling me that all the donors are lining up behind that candidate. So I can tell, and I can tell you, it's not a black person nor woman, okay? So like, it is, they have, quote unquote, they have chosen. And when I say they, it's the same donors that most likely had their opinions about Joe Biden and move. So like, that would be the they that I would talk about. Here's what I want people to understand. Is I do absolutely agree with Malcolm when he talks about not ceding your power. At the end of the day, don't give up your power. People fail to recognize how unique Trump is. They continue to say, well, we lost. Well, they both lost to Trump. Trump, who is a misogynist. Trump, who is going to ramp up the misogynist in the first place, because that's what he does. He is disrespectful. Like right now, he still doesn't know how to deal with me, because if you punch me, I'm punching back, okay? So like, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Now, I know he think he running again. But that ain't happening. I don't care what all is going on in this country. And I don't care how many things we won't say we are absolutely going to do. I am telling y'all with all confidence, he is not running for a third term. That is not a thing. You have to understand that it wasn't that they lost per se. I mean, obviously, Kamala was in a very precarious situation. She ran for 107 days, and there had already been, I tell people that we need to look at what exactly is the persona of the party or the persona of a candidate. And they had already characterized her as a prosecutor, period. She was a prosecutor. That was how they characterized her. They had done that years ago. And she did not have the time to explain, I'm the same type of prosecutor you would have wanted in the case of Breonna Taylor. Yeah. Yes, I was a prosecutor, but I was one of the good ones, right? Instead, when you talk to like communities of color and you say prosecutor, it ain't nothing good that comes in your mind, right? Like it's not. And so she was having to combat that. But he had been characterized as this amazing, smart, strong businessman. Right. And so the thing is this, anybody that did their research voted the right way. The people that had the information, they voted the right way. These are facts. The more educated voters and the voters that went to the legacy media, frankly, they voted the right way. It's the ones that were getting the fake news or the lies. They were the ones that were voting the wrong way. And so I had to think about this. I said, now this fool done filed for bankruptcy 6 times. Now what makes him a good businessman? I'm like, what is it? I'm just sitting there and I'm like, and when he was born, daggone it, he was given hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, I could be rich today too if my mama had that when I was born. So like, I'm just like, what is happening? And so as much as we would rail against, like, no, he sucks at business. Like, he's a fraud at business. Like, he been sued for being a fraud. Y'all remember his fake school? Like, all the things. Like, you could say that. But at the same time, we ended up looking like the liars because they were like, for years, I have seen his name on buildings. You can't tell me this man don't have money because I've seen Trump hotels. I've seen Trump casinos. I don't know how you bankrupt a casino, but he did. I have seen Trump everything throughout the world. And so is this persona. And so I'm like, you have to understand that didn't happen in one election cycle. That was over a long amount of time. We don't necessarily have another Trump coming up, right? We have this cult that is trying to figure out who will be the cult leader next. But when you had DeSantis that tried to be Trump, he could not do it. When you had Nikki that tried to be Trump, she couldn't do it. You had the one running for Ohio governor. He couldn't be Trump. Yeah, Ramaswamy. Like, so the thing is, you can't just insert somebody else in. And so it was a unique person. And so I think that we should just be looking at who is best. Period. Exactly. And we should trust and believe, because let me tell you something. I told some people here recently. I said I was talking to a room of very in tune donors, women donors in New York just last weekend, and I said, first of all, we got to figure out what our simple message is. So I did a game with them. It's first and only time I ever did it. I said, tell me what the theme of Obama's campaign was. Everybody said hope. Yeah, that's right. I said, now tell me what the theme of Trump's campaign was. Everybody said, you know what they said. And then I said, now tell me what the theme of Hillary's campaign was. And there was a struggle. And then I said, tell me what the theme of Harris's campaign was. And I thought they was going to come to where I had come. And they didn't get it. And so they were all over the place. And I said, so essentially, number one, we have to find that very simple, and it still has to be, again, an emotion. When you think about greatness, that's evoking an emotion. When you think about hope, I'm like, I was hoping, but I wasn't believing, but I hoped my way to the polls,
yes,
right?
We can.
Yes, right? And so, the thing is, you can still repeat it.
Yes.
As if it was yesterday.
Yes.
And so, honestly, we can spend all the time coming up with the best policy proposals and all the things and whatever. But at the end of the day, giving something that somebody can connect to that makes them identify with a strong emotion, it will be, honestly, that winning thing, giving them something that they can collectively connect to. And ultimately, I think that that's just the best place for us to start. And I think that there is nothing that we can't do, because I did not believe we would ever have a black president. And we ended up with President Barack Obama. And it was because the Republicans had burned everything down to the point that some people just threw their hands up and said, anything else, just anything else. And honestly, by the time they done, I think they're going to be at a anything else point again. So I think that honestly, it may be our best opportunity, but it can't just be that it's like, oh, we've got a woman, and that's not to say that was Harris, because y'all know that y'all know how I feel about the vice president. So I'm not saying that. So I'm not saying we should just have just a woman so we can do it. I think that we should definitely pick the candidate that we feel like is going to be able to go in, go toe to toe, lay down the facts simply, effectively, and has an emotional message that everybody can connect with, and I think we'll win.
Okay.